Hi, my name's Stephanie, permanent makeup artist, and thank you so much for joining me for this tutorial on how to set up the Giant Sun device. Now this is the Giant Sun 8650, this is the one I use. It comes in two colours, a champagne colour and a bluey green colour. Now when you first purchase the kit, it will come in a box like this, so I'm going to really quickly run through what's inside. So you'll get your Giant Sun device, you'll have a warranty card, some written instructions, some little pre-cut blue sponges, a selection of needles, two sample pigments, some little pots, and two alternative power supplies. So let's talk about how we supply Giant Sun with power. Now I choose to use the critical atom power supply. Now you don't have to use the critical atom, you can use an alternative tattoo power supply, and you can get these quite inexpensively. I use it using, we call this the magic cable. It's a very robust, flexible and slim cable, and that works really well. So just quickly before I go into more detail about that, I want to talk about the power supplies that you get within your kit. So you'll get a mains adapter, and if you are going to use it with the mains adapter, you'll need to obviously get an adapter to fit the country that you're working from. Now the reason I don't use this is because I feel that it runs at a slightly too high a speed for me, so I choose not to use this. You also get within your kit a battery pack, and it takes 4 AA batteries. Now this is great as a backup, so if you ever have an issue with your power supply or your lead, this is a really good backup, and it works quite effectively as well. But so it's good to sort of keep that away just in case. So let's talk a little bit more about how I supply the Giant Sun with power. So you have 3 power adjustments on the actual device itself. So you have 1, 2 and 3. Now 1 is the highest speed and 3 is the lowest speed. Now this is a very lightweight and slim device, but don't be fooled because it's actually very, very powerful. So you need to run it on quite a low speed or you could cause quite a lot of trauma to the skin. So we're going to have this switched up to number 3, which is the lowest speed setting. So it will be pushed up right towards the tip of the Giant Sun. Now, when you first get these out of your kit brand new, what you'll find is that they run a lot slower. So what I recommend you do is plug it into your power supply and just leave it for about 30 minutes just to run. And what you'll find is that it will gradually speed up. Once you've sped it up, it sort of warms it up, you're absolutely fine and you're good to go. So when you first get it out of the box, you're going to probably have your power supply on about 4.9, and then over the course of that 30 minutes that you leave it running, you'll notice that you will hear it speed up and you'll need to drop down the speed. Now I use this, I do change the speed very slightly, but generally for any sort of etching, so if I'm etching in the template or the outline of a brow or the outline of a lip or the wing line, I will have this running at about 3.1 to 3.3. And when I'm actually doing shading, I'll have it about 3.4 to 3.7. And what I have found is that different Giant Sun devices run at slightly different speeds. So you will find that some of them you have on a lower speed setting all the way through the life that you've got them for. Now, just quickly while we're talking about the life of them, because they're very inexpensively made, I would say you'll have anywhere between sort of 6 months if you're using it full time to sort of a year. But I have had them last for 18 months. So these are not going to last forever. So it's always good to have a backup. I always have a backup machine just in case, because all of a sudden they can just stop. And like I said before, in the kit, they do come with a year's manufacturer guarantee. So you will be able to return them for repair and they will do that for you. So I'm going to quickly run through all the needles and the accessories that I use with the Giant Sun. Now these are specifically the ones that I use. There are many more on the market and feel free to try them, but these are the ones that work for me, and I'll tell you what treatments that I find they're best for. So let's go to needles first. I only use 3 needles. So the first one is a 0.35. Now this is an acupuncture needle. and it's just very small. They're pre-cut to 5 centimetres, and the 0.35, I call this a standard needle. And what really that means is that the end is more like a bullet shape, so it's not as sharp. So this needle in particular is great for very sensitive, delicate skin, a skin that's sort of sun damaged or oily, any sort of skin that's going to be quite lymphy when you work on it. This is a great needle to use. Now, I specifically use this needle on all my eyeliner treatments, so this is the only needle that I use because it's really good with delicate skin and it causes very minimal trauma. But it's also good if you were going to use it on a brow, let's say, for someone that has a mature skin that's very delicate, or an oily or a sun damaged skin. This is also a great needle to use. So the second needle, now this is a 0.3. Now this is a textured needle and it's sharp as well. So this is a sharper point and it's a textured needle. Now this is the needle that I use for all of my lip treatments. The reason I use it is because the lip tissue is actually quite hard to penetrate. Although delicate, it can be quite robust to get through. So you need a needle that's a little bit sharper. And the textured part, so just around the end of the needle, just above the tip of the needle, there's a textured area. And what that does, it holds the ink, so it allows it to penetrate and it allows the ink flow. It increases the ink flow. So this is a great needle. Now I will probably get through 2 or 3 of these needles in a whole lip procedure. But they're very inexpensive. So when you start to feel some sort of resistance in the skin and you feel that the needle's not going in quite as well, then just take it out and replace it with a brand new one. So that's the 0.3 textured. So the next needle, and I don't use this very often, but I keep this as an absolute backup. Now this is incredibly flexible. It's 0.25. It's also sharp and textured, but I keep this in. So if I ever have a skin that has some scar tissue in it, or sometimes on the bottom lip, where the bottom pad of the lip, it can be quite tough and really hard for you to get your needle into that skin. So I will sometimes get that needle out for that as well. Or if I've got an area in a brow that has a scar maybe in it, this is a really good needle just if you're really struggling to get needle in. But it's a very sharp needle, it's very fine, and so you'll find that it will penetrate very easily. You can't really do a full treatment with this needle purely because it would take you so long, but it's just great to have as a little backup if you're really struggling. So then you'll have a needle tip which comes in a little packet like this. And this is what it looks like out of the packet. Now this is a single needle tip. You can get shader needles for the Giant device, but I don't use them. And if you do, you'll need a slightly different tip. They're like a black tip. Yeah, so that's the single needle tip. And then you've got your membrane. Now I use these little silicone membranes. I'll show you that. I don't know if you can see that really close up. A little silicone membrane, and this is your seal between the inside of the device and the needle. So this is to prevent backflow, but you can also use, instead of the membranes, the silicone membranes, a little pre-cut sponge, and I'll show you that in a second. So I'm going to show you now how I put my needle and my tip and my membrane into the Giant Sun. So if you come a little bit closer, what you'll see is you've got 3 metal discs or 3 metal rings. You've got a silver, a gold and a silver. So just quickly, I'm going to take off all of those discs just so you can have a little look inside. And what you'll see is a little tube. Now this is called a needle tube, and what you can do, because every now and again you're going to need to replace this, you can disconnect the needle tube and then just reconnect. So it's quite easy to change this needle tube if you need to. And you'll know when you need to change it because you'll be struggling to get your needle into it. So, but that's the needle tube, and there's a little tiny hole at the top, and that's where you pop your needle in. So I'm going to pop these discs back on. So when I'm in treatment, I just remove the last 2 metal discs, so the gold and the silver ones at the end. And you'll see the little needle tube at the end. And we're going to take the blunt end of our needle and we're just going to push it in to the machine, and you're going to push it all the way down. And if you give that a little tug, you will feel quite a lot of resistance, so it's really firmly secured into that needle tube. So I'm then going to pop my 2 discs back on. And now this is the really important part, because this device doesn't have any facility to move the needle in and out. We have to do it manually. So first of all, we're going to pull this needle out by about 5 mil. So you're just pulling it out a little bit more. Then we're going to take one of our membranes. So you can either use your little sponge disc and pop it on top and just push it in there, or you can use your little silicone membrane and put it over the top. And that's just your barrier between the end of the needle and the inside of the machine. So this will prevent any backflow. And then you're going to put your tip on the top. And what you should see is a little bit of the needle exposed. If you don't see any needle exposed, what you'll need to do is take the tip back off and pull the needle out just a teeny tiny bit. So I then turn on my device, and you can see there that the needle's really far out, and we're going to use the tip now to adjust the needle. So we're going to use the rigidity of the tip just to sort of move it back and forward to adjust the needle length. And you're going to want your needle out about 1.5 to 2 millimeters. And I only use the very, very tip of the needle. So it's helpful for me to have the needle exposed about 2 mil, just so I can see where the tip is. Thanks for watching this tutorial. I really hope you found it helpful and you enjoy using the Giant Sun just as much as I do. For any of the accessories that you've seen today or the Giant Sun device, it's all available at my shop, which is linked to my website, stephanie.co.uk. Thanks again, and I'll see you all soon. Bye!